All right, welcome back to the Wrenchbench podcast.
Welcome back, episode 2.
We're talking about e-bikes today, the evolution of e-bikes.
Yes, we are.
And there's a lot to dig into.
There is.
For sure. I don't want to we don't want to overkill it because the history of e-bikes goes way back, a lot further than what I even thought.
It is quite extensive.
Yeah, I was actually really shocked because we're just going to dig into it because we want to go from the timeline of when it began, really, and up until today, and really what these e-bikes have done to the world. So 1895 is when the very first one.
Sorry, did you say 1895?
1895. 1895. The guy's name was Ogden Bolton Jr. He began trying to get an e-bike going with a hub drive motor and a battery just mounted to the frame. So a lot like what we have today for the majority of them.
Except it was 100 years ago.
100 years ago. So, yeah, kind of crazy though, right?
130 years ago.
Think about that. Like 130 years ago, this guy came up with, the idea and concept of an e-bike, and that's rad.
It's nuts.
But you think about it, the reason why it didn't take off is pretty obvious because the technology just wasn't really there. Batteries were bulky, bikes were really heavy. And
sure, it didn't work the best.
Bikes went very slow and not very far.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then it just continued on that point, just with minor little things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't progress.
Yep. Sure, it kind of stagnated just a little bit. And then you kind of jump 100 years into the future to the 1990s. So not 1890s, 1990s. And that's where e-bikes became more popular. Now, that's still nothing compared to today, more popular.
Actually, this is another quick thing to kind of deal with a little bit of the gap of time frame there. Panasonic, the TV manufacturer, actually developed something that was an e-bike.
Really?
Panasonic did.
A Panasonic e-bike?
Yeah.
I wonder what that would look like.
They're pretty goofy.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty huge and bulky and goofy looking.
Oh.
But kind of interesting to know that, you have some of these companies, and I'm sure there's other stuff that I was not able to find within researching.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of other little manufacturers that were like, let's try to get something going. But again, even in the 1990s, Yamaha was the one that came up with that one.
Yeah, I knew that Yamaha produced some sort of e-bike. Still, in terms of quality, not really.
No.
Nothing near what we have today. We have way, way better technology today, as you would have hoped and expected.
For sure.
Yeah.
I bet you that one in 1993 is better than some of the ones we've seen coming to the shop lately.
To be fair, the bar of entry, not very high.
Yeah.
We've seen some interesting bikes in the past.
Yep. And we'll talk about some of these ones here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, so then fast forward from 1993, Yamaha developed this one.
Mm-hmm.
It became mass production, mainly over in Asia, is what I was reading. It was saying it took off. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Their population is going to be more based off of, cycling. They don't need many cars. I mean, they have a lot of cars, but
their
just
cities,
a different system over there.
I mean, a lot of their cities are so old, they weren't designed for cars, whereas here in America, a lot of our cities were designed for cars. So inherently, cycling is going to be a much bigger part of the community over in Europe and Asia and China. And
Yeah. Then, technology was getting just a little bit better. Companies, I think, were starting to see a little bit of like, maybe we should do something with e-bikes. I don't know. I don't know the details, but.
And I think 2010 to 2020, that decade is when e-bikes really, pretty much a lot of like anything electric. Tesla, they started making electric cars.
Yep.
All these companies started to make electric bikes. So I think in that decade alone, that's where we've seen the biggest growth of electric acceptance, like from e-cars, it's an electric car, to e-bikes.
Yep. Fast forwarding to, we start off with 2012, was it?
There we go.
Specialized came out with the Turbo. It was just called the Turbo. That was their first electric e-bike that was designed for, I think, generally commuting.
One of the
And
first like mass-produced e-bikes, which would be recognizable today.
recognizable.
Yep.
And then it seemed like it grabbed a good amount of attention because in 2015, Specialized produced their Turbo Levo, which is their full suspension mountain e-bike.
Yep.
And
And
that took off.
It took off. They're still making them today, and I think 2015 as well is when a lot of these other bike companies started to hop on the e-bike bandwagon, especially the mountain bike e-bike bandwagon. I think Giant released an e-bike that same year, obviously Specialized, and I'm sure plenty other companies I can't name right now.
Oddly enough, the U.S. was still behind on the e-bike trend, though, because Europe still, from like 2010, already had a lot of these things going
Okay.
before we did.
Interesting.
The U.S. has kind of always been a little bit behind on some of the technology things in some ways.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, 2015, 2016, the Levo progressed a little bit more. The technology allowed you to be able to connect your phone to it. So things have changed a lot.
We got Bluetooth.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
We got Bluetooth, fellas, you know.
So,
And,
next couple years, nothing super, super exciting. More e-bikes started to come out. More people started to hop on these e-bikes. And then 2020 came. I think we all know what happened 2020.
Yeah. The world shut down. People wanted to get outside, and everything exploded in the outdoor industry because of that. And e-bikes through the roof. Crazy sales on e-bikes.
Yep. Now, why do you think now all bike sales 2020, 2021 exploded, but e-bikes in particular took off? I think it was like 200 something % from the previous year. Why do you think e-bikes in particular took off way more than a regular analog bike would have taken off?
I think it's because e-bikes allow every single person to get out. It's not just your person who is super fit. Anyone who is, fit or not fit can get on an e-bike and get out there and ride and enjoy more riding time. That's the goal. You want to spend more time out there.
100%.
And even you and I know that we've gone and done a lap around a certain trail system, and you do one lap and we're like feeling good that day. We can get out and maybe do one or two more, right?
Oh yeah.
On an e-bike, you can endlessly go for 2 hours and climb. I think it was 2 to 3 times more % of vertical climbing that you can do on an e-bike is what the statistics have shown us for really any of the riders out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point with e-bikes. Is there's a much, much lower barrier of entry in terms of how fit you have to be, how in shape you have to be. As long as you know how to ride a bike, you can ride an e-bike and you can get yourself into a lot of trouble in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. I think it showed the world that e-bikes are a thing for everyone, of course, like what we just said.
100%.
And
I think for the past couple of years, there's been a stigma of, if you're riding an e-bike, you're not a real biker, you're cheating, you're using a motor, which now that they're so popular, I think that stigma has started to fade for good reason too, because you're still pedaling. So these e-bikes, what we're referring to, are what's known as a pedal assist e-bike. There's a few different classifications, which we'll get to later, but you still have to put the work in. If you're out there riding an e-bike, you're still pedaling, you're still breathing hard, your heart rate is up, you're still getting a workout in. The e-bike just lets you it lets you go faster, go farther, and have a better time doing it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to work I guess parallel with your power. So whatever power you put into the pedals, it's going to say, I'm going to match that. And so you're just going double the speed. Don't get me wrong.
And there's a lot of different e-bikes, and they all have like different power modes. So some will, I'm sure, will match it. If you're putting out 100 watts, motor will do 100 watts. Some that'll do a lot less, and sure, there's a few that'll do more.
You've been able to, I know this past summer, you've been able to spend quite a bit of time on one of our e-bikes that we have.
I have. Another great benefit of e-bikes is training. So e-bikes are for everyone, whether you're just getting into mountain biking or you've been doing it for years and years like me and Mark have. They're really great for training. Like this year in particular, I focused a lot on enduro and downhill racing. And then early in the summer, or early spring, before the bike parks had opened up, I still want to session downhill. And now you can do it on a regular bike. You climb up a trail, you descend it, you get some practice in. Problem is, like Mark kind of mentioned, is you do that once, maybe twice, and you're gassed. That's the end of the ride. You're tired. But on an e-bike, it lets you session downhill way more. You can do 5, 6, 7 laps of, like, obviously depends on how long the lap is and where you're riding. But it lets you session downhill and train downhill way more, or train anything really, way more than you would be able to on an analog bike.
Definitely. I did the same thing. I used it 2 summers ago on the one that I have, and I just strictly tried to use that as much as I could to see if I could train on that.
Yeah.
Like I could on my normal bike, my analog bike, and I saw about the same results. As long as I stuck to using it in eco mode and tuning it to making me do more of the work, I still noticed that I was going much faster, but I was getting my heart rate up to seriously my max heart rate, which is pretty cool.
So you're saying you can also train like cross country, or you can train your cardiovascular system on an e-bike as well. So you can get as much of a workout on an e-bike as you would be able to on a regular analog bike. You're just going faster and having more fun doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy riding so much more, and I can get double the riding in a week.
Yeah.
Throughout the summertime.
Here you go.
I can train
Rack
on
those miles up.
I can train on my cross country bike. After that, next day, you and I will go out on e-bikes and have a fun time.
For sure.
And do actually more vertical than I did the previous day.
Exactly.
So
they're toys and they're tools. I know, like, a lot of industry pros and even pros outside the industry, like motocross riders, even in the industry like Jackson Goldstone and a lot of other downhill racers, they ride on e-bikes. I think Jackson Goldstone like has a Levo specifically for training. When he can't get to the park and you ride the lift up and ride down, you ride the e-bike up and then you ride down. So you're still practicing cornering, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, Cody Kelly, he rides us a ton.
He does, yeah.
That guy rides the new Levo 4, which is phenomenal e-bike.
Yeah.
If you haven't ridden that one, I suggest you try that one too.
100%. So e-bikes have been around for 130 years now, but in the past 10 years, so 2015 to 2025 now, batteries, frankly, everything has just exploded.
Crazy exploded.
Yeah.
Motor efficiency, the smoothness, the natural ride feel, everything about them with the technology, suspension, geometry.
Yeah.
I mean, we can take the batteries out of the frame now. We can do all sorts of things with them.
You can swap different batteries in and out. It's
range extenders to get more range out of it.
I think part of this is, like I kind of mentioned before, is electric cars have exploded in popularity. So inherently, battery technology, motor technology, a lot more work has gone into innovating in those realms. So a bike from 10 years ago versus today, the battery physically might be roughly the same size, but a battery today has way more power density. So you're going to get 800 watt hours as opposed to 300 or 400 watt hours from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy to think that the Levo SL, so this is the lightweight version of the Levo. So it has a smaller motor and a smaller battery to lighten it up. That came out, the one that we currently have came out 2000 and maybe 20, I think. And that battery was like 320 watts.
Yep, 320 watt hours.
Now what's crazy is that the range extenders that we have today are about the exact same size.
They're smaller. For context, a specialized range extender is about the size of a stereotypical water bottle, and you even put it in the water bottle cage of your e-bike. Yeah. So, size of a water bottle, but it's got as much power as a bike, as a battery that fits into the entire down tube of a bike.
Crazy. You can switch things around, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, where you could take the big battery out and just use that. So lighten up your big Levo or e-bike, whatever it might be, and just, again, make it more of a natural ride feel. Pretty dang cool stuff.
Yeah, long story short, e-bikes are so customizable nowadays. You can do like a big 800 watt hour battery. You can do a smaller 500 to save some weight. You can do so many different things. I guess what we're just ranting about is just e-bikes are great. They're so much fun. They're great tools. Like, people use them for hunting even. You can use them for a lot of different use cases.
Lots of pros, right? But we haven't really mentioned the cons. So that is a good thing to talk about, is the cons to e-bikes. Now, when you invest in getting e-bike, you do need to think about the future of what if my battery dies on me? Do I need to replace this battery? Can we restore that battery? What about my motors?
Yep.
What's the cost of my motor, battery? Everything else on the bike is going to be more of your general maintenance to what a bike is, not just an e-bike, but the bike itself.
Yep.
So that's where it gets costly.
The good news is, cost aside, good news is with a lot of these major brands, Specialized, Canyon, Santa Cruz, Giant, pretty much all of these major bike brands, if you buy an e-bike from them, you're going to be able to find replacement parts. Like I know Specialized still produces the battery they put in the Gen 1 Levo from 10 years ago now. Whereas you can find a lot of these other e-bikes from not as reputable, or I don't want to say not as reputable, but not as mainstream brands. Yeah. And they're still going to be a ton of fun. They're going to be way cheaper until they break.
Yeah, they will eventually wear down and break. Sometimes you have manufacturer defects, which you should be covered on that with warranties, especially from Specialized, Santa Cruz, Trek. They all take care of their customers, which is great. They usually give about a 2-year warranty on that.
Yeah, it depends. But
overall, it could end up costing a little bit of money, we've seen, which is unfortunate. It's kind of like cars. You're bound to run into issues.
Yeah, still way cheaper. If you just keep going back to all these use cases. I know so many people in big cities who use an e-bike to commute because you don't need a registration, you don't need insurance, you don't need any of that stuff. So even though there are still some other costs, like if you need to replace a motor or a battery or whatever, it's still going to be marginally cheaper than any possible car you could find.
Definitely. Yeah, there's not just mountain e-bikes. We haven't really even mentioned all the other e-bikes out there. We've kind of lightly touched on them, but that's a thing to be to look into, as well as knowing like there's so many variety of e-bikes out there. Think about what you want overall, because you can get a road one, you can get the mountain one, like we've talked about. You can get a cargo one. You could get these. There's ones that you can buy from Costco and other places that we don't know of that we don't fully recommend, because
not at all.
It's hard to find replacement parts for these ones.
I would go as far to say is a lot of times it's impossible. Maybe not impossible to find replacement parts or parts that would work as replacement parts. But I know on a lot of these cheap budget e-bikes that I've seen, that I've personally worked on, I'm a mechanic here at the shop we work at, is a lot of times they're not made to be fixable. Either the motor, the battery, or just locked into the frame. Or there's one occasion where some lady brought her e-bike in. I forget what brand it is. It's not important. Just know it was like a cheap e-bike, and her throttle broke. It was a class 2 e-bike, which we'll get into the classifications in a little bit. But it is either pedal assist, so you can pedal the bike, or you had a little throttle on the handlebars, goes up to 20 miles an hour. And they're fun. They're super fun, but her throttle broke. And I'm like, that shouldn't be too hard to find, like some sort of replacement part. But no, the way the bike was manufactured is the throttle was actually the plastic injection molded onto the bike itself. So it was actually impossible to take off. It's not like it was part of the bike.
Right.
So with a lot of these cheap e-bikes, now you can find good cheap e-bikes out there, especially on the used market today. Brand new budget cheap e-bike. Well, I'm gonna clear something up here. There's budget e-bikes. Now you can find budget e-bikes from like Rad Power e-bikes, Aventon, a lot of these reputable companies that make budget e-bikes. And then there's cheap e-bikes. There's a difference. Budget is still high quality but affordable, and then there's cheap that's affordable, but it's just made out of crap. Comes straight from China. Now, not everything that comes from China is bad, but it comes straight from China. It's made to be as cheap as possible, and then when it breaks, you're out of luck.
When that thing breaks, it breaks.
Yeah.
It's donezo. So I don't get those unless you know I'm going to use this as a disposable, and that's it.
So, yeah, clarify. There's some really, really great budget e-bikes out there. If you're in the market for an e-bike, you could easily spend $15,000 on one. They get expensive, but there's some really, really great budget e-bikes. Like Specialized has a couple. Rad Power bikes, they make, I think most of their lineup is under $2,000. Aventon makes a lot of budget e-bikes. And then there's like cheap e-bikes like Jetson,
I'm not sure of anything else.
A lot of these
They're gonna be.
names, a lot of these names are nonsense. Like we can't even remember them because
Yep.
it's like it's just nonsense.
You're not gonna be able to do anything with them.
Yep.
But the thing with all these e-bikes, we lightly brushed up on this, is the classifications of them.
Yep.
So you heard earlier, Charles said class 1, class 2, and I think class 3
Class
mentioned.
3.
There's a big difference between each of these and where you can or cannot ride these. Class 1 is going to mean it's just all motor assist. So you got to do your part in order for it to work.
Yep. There's no throttle, so you have to be pedaling to get the motor to do anything at all.
Class 2, I believe, has a throttle and goes to 25 miles an hour.
20. So
20.
Class 1 and Class 2 are very similar in that they have the same speed limit. It's mandated from the government where a Class 1 e-bike or a Class 2 e-bike, you can only get them to 20 miles an hour. You can pedal the bike faster, but the motor will stop assisting you at 20 miles an hour. So Class 1 is just pedal assist, whereas Class 2, you get that throttle as well as pedal assist.
That's right.
Yep.
And then we've got class 3.
Mm-hmm.
Class 3, do you want to explain it?
Yep, Class 3 is the fastest. It's similar to Class 1, whereas you have only pedal assist. There's no throttle. You have to be pedaling, but it's a higher speed limit, so it's going to be 28 miles an hour.
Yep.
So, for example, with any e-bike specifically, most e-bikes are going to be Class 1, meaning it's just pedal assist. You go up to 20 miles an hour. Pretty much every single e-mountain bike out there is going to be Class 1. Whereas like an e-gravel bike or an e-road bike, generally it's not uncommon to be going faster than 20 miles an hour.
Right.
So that's where those are more commonly Class 3s, where still just pedal assist. You don't have any throttles, but you get to go 28 miles an hour. So just shy of 30 miles an hour.
Yep. It does make a difference. So just be aware of those things that you've got a little bit different categories.
Yep.
There are some trail systems that do say which bikes can be ridden on them. I think those rules have become less strict because there's so many e-bikes out there.
Yep,
So
they've become more accepted.
Mm-hmm. Now, even though there's so many e-bikes out there, e-bikes, there are e-bikes that people call e-bikes. And these are things that
Yep.
this needs to be cleared.
So we want to bring attention to this.
Yep.
If you're riding an e-bike, legally classified as an e-bike, whether it's Class 1, Class 2, or Class 3, whatever it is, the motor should be 750 watts or less. As long as it's an e-bike, 750 watts or less, you don't need registration, you don't need insurance, like we mentioned. But nowadays, there are a lot of companies that are making they're kind of marketing it as an e-bike, but a lot of times it's more similar to an e-dirt bike.
E-motorcycle, yep.
Yep, e-motorcycle, e-dirt bike. On an e-bike, you're limited to either 20 or 28 miles an hour. These guys go way, way faster.
Yep, they will go 40 miles an hour, 50. I think they're getting faster and faster.
Yeah, there's some of these Surons or whatever that can go 60, 70.
Suron is the name of one of them that's out there, probably the most well-known.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that I think is called Talaria.
Yep, Talaria.
And they are super dangerous. They're fun, I will say.
Yep.
But this is not what we refer to as an e-bike.
Yep.
So be clear of that, is that this is an e-motorcycle, and these are strictly not allowed on trails.
Yep.
Because they will just destroy the trail.
Yep.
Too much stuff going on with those bikes.
I think we see, and this has been happening all over the country, and I'm sure other places too. A lot of people have been getting these e-dirt bikes and e-motorcycles, and then they've been treating them as e-bikes. They've been riding them around pretty much anywhere they want, like on the trails. That's still an issue because it rips up the trail, damages it, and I know a lot of trail builders put in a lot of time to make the trail, like keep it in good condition.
Yeah.
That's whatever. Like, it is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Still, don't ride your e-dirt bikes on these trails.
Yeah, please
but
don't.
A bigger issue is these 15-year-old kids who have these bikes that can go 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. They have no license, no registration, no insurance.
Yeah.
And they're just getting into trouble.
I don't think parents know how fast they are, how dangerous they are. And then they don't know the cost of them. I mean, I don't even know I don't even know where they're getting these things. I truly have no clue where they're actually getting them.
I think my theory is a lot of it's they're like we kind of mentioned they're being marketed as an e-bike, and these parents are like, oh, an e-bike, that can't be that, like that's just jolly old, like that's fun,
Yeah.
good time, and they don't realize that in reality it's not an e-bike, and it is way way more dangerous.
Yeah.
So there's these 15-year-old kids who are ripping around, no helmet, just causing mayhem, and then like I swear every day now I see something on the news about another kid who got hit on one of these dirt bikes. Not a mount now. You can like people still get hit on bikes.
Yeah.
But there's these kids who just don't have the skill level, don't have the knowledge. They don't know like the rules of the road. They're just getting hit on these bikes because they're in over their heads. Honestly.
Yeah. The biggest difference to distinguish the difference between these two bikes is that an e-bike is going to it's going to have pedals on it, so you can actually move your cranks in a circular movement, whatever you want to call it.
The bike has to be able to be powered by just your legs alone, by just pedaling.
Surons, Talarias, e-motorcycles are going to have pegs, so no pedals to it. So just a static peg, and that's it. So that's how you can tell a difference between what you're looking at if you're questioning what kind of an e-bike I'm looking at here.
Yep.
And that's how you can look at it.
Every e-bike out there should have some sort of sticker on it that says what class it is, whether class 1, class 2, class 3, and then the wattage of the motor. So as long as that motor is less than 750 watts, you don't need to register it. You don't need to insure it. None of that. If it's an e-bike, so 750 watts or less, those are great for kids. I know a lot of people who get these e-bikes for kids to commute to school on. They're limited. You can only go so fast. They're much safer, but you still have a good time on them.
Yeah. Overall, e-bikes are great. I know my stance on them, but what's your overall stance on it?
E-bikes are for everyone. They are great.
Yeah. I highly recommend them. I would suggest doing your research and making sure that what you're going to invest in is going to be worth your time, because there are some of them that are having recalls on batteries and things like that. It could potentially start a fire, and you definitely don't want to deal with that. So yeah, like just for sure do your research going into it.
That does remind me, that was a big issue in the past, like apartments in New York where someone's charging a cheap e-bike, the battery explodes, catches fire, no good. As long as you buy from a reputable brand, even if it is a budget brand, like we mentioned before, they still follow all these safety precautions. They're still very, very safe. Like I don't think Specialized has had an issue with any of their batteries combusting or exploding. Great track record as opposed to a lot of these other brands. So if you're looking to get into the e-bike market or getting into the e-bikes, which we 100% recommend, whether you're a seasoned professional or you're learning how to ride a bike for the first time in 30 years, we still recommend it. Whatever age or skill level, they're fun for everyone. Just do your research. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call your local bike shop, and they'll be more than happy to help.
Please, yeah. But again, make it an investment. So do your research like we've just been going over there. So overall, again, thanks for listening today. This was great. There's just so much to know about e-bikes, and we got a lot more coming down the line with more episodes. So,
of course, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.
Yeah.
And then
stay tuned.
Episode 2 of the Wrenchbench with Mark and Charles.
Let's go.
All right, we'll see you next time.